our minds over to, priests, imams, politicians, kings, and let others do the thing, scientists, professors.
I agree.
Letting other people do the thinking for us. See, what I appreciated about Jesus Christ was he was trying to empower us to be able to think for ourselves.
Can you give an example of, you say that's very interesting, but can you give an example from the Gospels where he does just that?
Say that again.
Can you give an example? You said Jesus came to empower us. Can you give an example from the Gospels?
Absolutely. I mean, it was one of his biggest messages. So when he saw the people, he called them like sheep that was sort of trodden on and mistreated, and he was condemning the religious leaders for overburdening them. And he said to the people to come to me, I will lighten your burden. He said there will be a freedom in Christ, meaning that there's a boundary. Of course, we need.
Sorry, just interrupt. Where did he say that there's a boundary in Christ? Where did Jesus say this?
John chapter 5 or 6, around there, there's a whole section which is entitled "The Freedom in Christ." And
what does Jesus say? Because obviously that's a human. That's a later scriptural addition. Editorial addition to the text in John. So what was Jesus portrayed as saying in John's Gospel?
So what he's to paraphrase, he's essentially saying that we have a right to. For example, I'll give you a clear example. They condemned Jesus for healing on the Sabbath. They were like, you can't do that, and he did, and so he broke a major law. And what he was showing was we've got to use our thinking, our critical thinking, and that's all it was. So he's just trying to he's saying, look, the law is so important of God, but ultimately everything hangs upon love of God and love of neighbour. And he's helping us to just work by principles. So we're not on just milk. See, I call religion like a mother that sort of feeds us milk. And Apostle Paul said we need to latch off like mother, like when mother gives us breast milk, and to move on to something called like solid food, where we can distinguish for ourselves what's right and wrong.
What was the gospel message? Okay, thank you for clarifying that. But what is the gospel that Jesus preached? Where did he go around Galilee actually preaching, do you think?
Oh, okay. So what was his message?
Yeah, because he said at the beginning of Mark, for example, he's come to preach the gospel, the good news, the Injil or whatever, to the people. What was that message?
The message was of salvation, ultimately. See, I feel his real message was what we all want. We want to get as close to God as possible.
No, but it wasn't so much your interpretation of what you think the message. Well, what did he say the message was? Can you just tell me what he said? Because I can tell you what Muhammad said. He said, believe in one God. There's an afterlife, and treat your neighbours well. And so I can give you detail. What's the actual message of Jesus when he went around Galilee saying, Galileans, believe X? What was his message?
The ultimate message was to love God, his Father, and for us to be as close to Him as possible.
Right.
And this is why I'm saying, what I find with a lot of organised religions.
But you're part of organised religion, you're Christian, right?
So I don't. Sorry.
That's not very nice. You're standing there laughing. Just a point about loving God and loving your neighbour. When Jesus did say that, according to the Gospels, you are aware, of course, that these are actual quotes from the Old Testament law itself.
Yes.
So Jesus didn't make up these ideas. The idea of loving your neighbour is a quote from Leviticus.
Yes.
Is actually part of the Old Testament law. The idea of loving God, above all, is in the Jewish law. So this is not new. No. He's quoting the law of Moses. So he says within the law, quoting the law, which says love God and love your neighbour.
I think that's a beautiful thing, yes. He never came to destroy anything. Yeah. He was fulfilling really the law, meaning...
So he didn't come to abolish the law. But Paul, of course, in Ephesians, in chapter 2, verse 15, says that Christ came to abolish the law with all its commandments and ordinances. But according to Matthew, chapter 5, verse 17, Jesus says, do not think I have come to abolish the law and its commandments. The direct opposite of what Paul claimed in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 15. You can look it up now if you want. How do we account for this big discrepancy between what Paul said, who never met Jesus, of course, and what Jesus said according to Matthew?
I believe it's a misunderstanding because Jesus came to fulfill the law, which means, when you fill up a cup, he was really filling it to the full. And what I'm trying to say is, the law was very important.
I'm not sure what that means, by the way.
I was trying to explain it.
Yeah.
No, the question to ask was, you're saying Jesus came to fulfill the law, But Paul said something else, right? Then Paul said he came to abrogate the law.
Yeah, to abolish the law.
So which one do you believe? Paul or Jesus?
No, but this is what I'm trying to explain to you.
Presumably Jesus got it right because he was obviously the brother sent by
that
God.
makes sense.
So Paul then misunderstood Jesus fundamentally, because Paul claimed that Jesus abolished the law and his commandments and ordinances, and yet according to Matthew, Mark and Luke, Jesus said he'd not come to abolish the law at all, but to, as you put it, fulfill it. But fulfill doesn't mean abolish. So the question is, for example, should we eat pork?
No, so
Should followers of Jesus eat pork?
You want to answer a question?
Yeah, carry on.
So he didn't mean to abolish the law completely. All he was trying to do was to actually help us to move on from the law, to be able to think for ourselves. It goes back to my point earlier.
Think for ourselves.
Sorry?
Think for ourselves.
Yeah,
What you said earlier,
I'm not sure. I don't remember you saying that, but you think for ourselves.
Jesus came to hold up the law, you said earlier.
Sorry?
You're saying Jesus came to hold up the law,
Yes.
Mosaic laws earlier, but now you're saying Jesus did this khiyas kind of situation where he figured something out of his own rationality, and now Jesus is saying think for yourself, right? So the law is not really the law, it's just a principle to follow, right? That sounds more mythological.
No,
sounds
so
more
what all he
Protestant.
wants us to do is not to be like robots or zombies where we're kind of, dictated by the, just black and white, like don't do this or be, because what's happened now
What's the first commandment? Don't
Wait,
make answers.
hang on, can we just cover? Can we just can I give an example about eating pork? So the Jewish law says you mustn't eat pork. Obviously, Muslims obviously follow the same injunction. And Jesus also didn't abrogate or abolish the law according to the earliest Gospels. He upheld the law. He was a Jew. He didn't eat pork. But according to Paul in Romans and other places, all food has been declared clean. So who's right here? Is it the law of Moses and what Jesus taught, or is Paul right? Who are we to follow here?
Okay, so
it's very confusing.
Situations like that. There was the whole situation about the circumcision, for example, and there were debates. And what Jesus was trying to do was he was trying to move us away from being dictated, because as I mentioned at the beginning, the people were being so kind of burdened by all these laws, like I mentioned, the Sabbath, that he was trying to free us. Like, for example, healing on the Sabbath. They were really trying to, trap him with that and say you healed on the Sabbath. But he's showing the importance was to heal, and that actually we have to be sensible.
I agree.
That's got nothing to do with
But the question I asked is not about whether or not you can heal or not. It's about the law.
Okay, but the reason why I didn't answer the one about pork directly was because this is such a huge subject about the laws. There were so many different.
One is saying do this, and the other one is saying don't do it. So who do you follow? Paul or it's very simple, or Jesus? Who carries the greatest word? Jesus or Paul? Just answer that.
God himself.
No, that's not why I asked. I said Jesus.
No, but I have
Paul?
answered you. Neither of them. And this was. See,
So Jesus is not God.
Sorry?
So Jesus is not God.
He's not the Almighty God. No. So why are we laughing?
It's disrespectful. It's disrespectful to laugh. It's disrespectful. Disrespectful.
Who is he then? I wasn't being religious now, so still confused.
Sorry?
I wasn't being religious now.
Sorry,
still
there's so
confused.
many different things here
No,
going on.
Yeah, but
did you ask him?
If he's not God, who is he? Who's Jesus?
Well, as he always proclaimed, he's the Son of God. I mean, look, you guys respect Jesus so much.
Can I just clarify, what does Son of God mean? Because, for example, in Luke chapter 3, Adam is called the Son of God. In the Psalms, Psalm 2, David is called Son of God.
Sure.
Jesus is called Son of God. So Jesus also said, according to Matthew, blessed are the peacemakers, for they should be called sons of God. So in what sense is Jesus Son of God? Is it different from Adam
And that's
or
what
something
I was
else?
coming to,
Yeah, I just
really.
want to clarify for everyone why I'm asking this question. I'm not being picky. I'm just trying, because if Adam is called Son of God and Jesus is Son of God, it simply means a human being, in which case we can all say amen to that. But if you mean something more than that he's some kind of... Right. So what is this more that you think Jesus was?
Well, I think he's absolutely. I believe he's our saviour. He's the only way, as a mediator, for us to find who our Almighty God is. Because look, a lot of religions, like even what I was brought up with, make God very distant, and it's like what I like about Christianity. See, when I was in my teens, my own father, my own fleshly father, he passed away.
Can I just, I'm going into your personal story here about your father. The question was who Jesus was. Coming back to that. Well, if we could just talk about that, because if you bring in all this personal testimony about your family, that's not really focusing on it. The question is, who is Jesus? Now, is he God, for example? Is he a Trinity, part of a Trinity? Or?
Oh no, well we know Trinity was a 4th century situation, wasn't it? Like the church. This is a
This
problem.
guy's very honest, man. I like him.
This is the thing. Like, I'm just saying, like the problem with organised religion is a lot of politics and paganism gets infiltrated.
So coming back to who Jesus is.
Let
So,
Paul just get one person.
if we could just focus on who Jesus was, rather than anything, things you don't believe about him. What do you believe he is? Okay, you don't believe he's part of a Trinity. You don't, but he's more than human. Is he part divine, part human, perhaps incarnation?
Okay, so exactly what I feel, the Almighty, his Father. I mean, like you Muslims as well, you believe there is one Almighty, and I do as well. Yes, but I feel he's given Jesus Christ all authority to become a saviour, to become a king. So when he returns, we see that there's a special purpose. We see like why the Muslims love him. Like I want to ask you, like, what's so special for you as well about Jesus Christ? Right. What do you know about?
So just to clarify then, before we change the subject, so Jesus is just a human being that God has exalted to a very high status. So he's not in any way divine. He's not God or part of God or anything like that.
He's not the Almighty God, but what I feel is that he's been. He helps us to understand what his Father's like, because he said that everything he did, he was in one with his Father. So when we see him doing things, like, it helps us come closer to the Almighty. That's what all he wanted, and I think.
That's not too different from the Islamic understanding, perhaps. Although, I mean, Jesus didn't have many of the attributes of God. He didn't know everything. He didn't know all things. He didn't know the day to the end. And he wasn't all powerful. He was human, and and so on. So
it's sincere, I can tell.
So your views are not what many would consider to be orthodox, traditional views at all.
And this is why I had to leave all organised religion. This is what I meant earlier. Because what he was doing to me was he was like putting the glasses on me, and I had to then be restricted. And Jesus said he hated all that, and he was trying to say, look, he wants to free us. He wants us to get as close to who the Almighty is. So he said, look, don't be trapped by organised religion. Do not trust in any man in whom no salvation belongs, because we can end up idolising.
Can I interrupt you there? You know, right now it sounds so much like a Muslim. You're saying there's only one God. These prophets came and they pointed us towards God, told us not worship no one but God. The only difference now would be that we as Muslims believe, like I said, we hold Jesus very high. We believe miraculous just like you do. He's born of a virgin mother, no father. That's but in the Quran, Allah explains about what? By likening him to Adam alayhi salam. Because the Christians make the argument, he has got no father, so therefore his father must be. The Quran, Allah says Adam's name, when he mentions it in a certain surah, it's many times Adam, because he's trying to show, look at Adam. As a Christian, you're speaking of Adam, right? He hasn't got a father. So where's the rationale for you saying, one doesn't have a father, therefore his father must be God, when you don't do it for the other? It's not consistent. So the point I'm making is, right now, you definitely sound more Muslim than you sound Christian.
Are you still searching?
Yeah, I agree.
When I walked away...
Are you still searching, like, for the truth? I don't want to interject. My suggestion to you, because he used to be a Christian and he studied it in university and he's a Muslim, speak to him.
I am.
He is. We are. Fear not.
Okay. So,
no, I was just saying, I was a Christian as well. Well, one of the things I discovered about the Prophet Muhammad, upon whom he was that his central message was the same message that Jesus has portrayed even in our Gospels now, going around preaching. And I had to come to choose, well, if Jesus is sent by God, and I really believe that as a Christian, what right did I have to say that a man who came after him also claimed to be a prophet, who merely claimed to be repeating or reinforcing or confirming the same teaching? What right did I have to deny that he was sent by God, apart from some Western cultural prejudice that I had, about the Muslims? And so I came to the conclusion, once I got over that hurdle, that he was a prophet of God, because I've been schooled in the biblical understanding of prophethood. And so, if it looks like a prophet, talks like a prophet, walks like a prophet, it is a prophet. And his character matches everything. He was like a prophet, an amazing prophet, not just a prophet, but an amazing prophet. And so I accepted that he was a prophet. And I would invite you to the same journey, because it's not embracing something new. It's the old time religion, the religion of Abraham.
Problem, then
it's
why
the Abraham
do I need it then? Because if Jesus was everything for us, then where is he? Like,
I tell you why you need it.
Is he
No. The reason is because Jesus isn't everything for us. I think that's a mistake. for Muslims, God is everything for us.
no, sorry,
But obviously
but I
he said
established that already.
but we don't put Jesus on such a pedestal that he becomes more than human, and that's one of the criticisms that the Prophet Muhammad made. Was that don't treat me, Muhammad said, the same way the Christians have treated Jesus. Right. They put him on a pedestal and worshipped him. I'm not saying you're worshipping Jesus, but Christians have done that. Nearly all Christians have done that historically. So the idea is to have a correct estimation of who Jesus and Muhammad are. Prophet of God, are great role models. The teaching essentially is the same. But why follow Muhammad? Because he is the reason is very simple. Jesus said in the Gospels he was only sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. He came to confirm the Torah with one or two exceptions where he mitigated the law according to the Quran. But overwhelmingly he confirmed the Jewish law for the Jews.
For the world to say John 5.
Hang on a second.
God loved the world so much.
Yeah, but so just finish it. So he came to confirm the law, but correctly understood with the spirit of love and mercy and compassion, as you rightly say, and to do away with the idolatries, the Pharisees, without going into all that. And Muhammad is the last prophet, but he was sent to all of mankind, not just to the local people of Judea. And what he brought, the Sharia, the law, the guidance, was the final guidance to all humanity. So we are obliged to follow what God has sent, namely the last prophet, and all the other prophets too, but all the others were just sent to their particular regions with their particular legal or guidance ways. But Jesus was just for the Jews.
But he wasn't.
He said he was. It's an actual quote from Matthew chapter 15. He says, where a Gentile, I'll give you a story. A Gentile woman comes to Jesus and says, heal my daughter and so on. And Jesus actually ignored her, according to Matthew, and wanted just to send her away. And he said, look, I've not been sent for you. This is according to Matthew. I'm only sent to the Jews, right? Now, Muhammad was sent as a mercy to all of mankind. Now, you're not a Jew, none of us are Jews, so we are now following the last prophet who really reaffirms the truth about what Jesus taught and did. So it's nothing new.
Jesus he said there was like I quoted John 5 where...
Have you? When you quoted John 5, I missed that. Where did you quote?
For God loved the world so much that he sent his only begotten
That's John,
Son.
that's not Jesus speaking,
Exactly.
that's John speaking.
Right, but
That's not Jesus.
That's not Jesus speaking in the passage.
It doesn't make no difference.
No, it makes all difference in the world because there's a problem with the Gospels we have today. They're a mixture of the words of Jesus and the words of men, unknown men, because they're anonymous. We don't know who wrote the Gospels. I know it says Matthew, Mark, and Luke, but we don't actually know who really wrote them. So we've got to be very careful here that we don't mistake the words of men for the words that came from God through the prophets. And you're saying it doesn't matter. It really does matter because later Gospel writers sometimes misunderstood or even made up sayings about Jesus or of Jesus and put them in his mouth. And this is something that's a commonplace of biblical scholarship today. This has been recognized for some time, that they're made up sayings of Jesus even in the Gospels. And how do we know they're made up or not? Well, we compare them with what the Quran teaches.
Yeah, but this is my whole problem with organised religion. Everyone wants to point a finger at each other.
It's not organised religion.
Sorry, I have to finish. Sorry.
It's not organised religion.
Well, it's just Christians against Muslims. Everyone's pointing a finger at each other.
But what you've just discussed, he's giving you a verse where Jesus is speaking, and you're giving a verse that Paul is speaking, not John is speaking.
Yeah.
Who carries more weight? Are you going to believe what Jesus say, because we know this is his word, or are you going to believe to a second or third person? That's the question. Because John is saying that, but Jesus is saying, I've only come.
That is the crux of the question.
No, but when you guys write the Quran as well, isn't
forget about the Quran.
Because you have a dispute right here, right? And he pointed out to what Jesus said, and you point out that something John said. Now you have to make a decision. Which one gets to prevail? Which one do you prefer over which?
So what he's trying to say is that the Bible's got corrupt.
No, that's not what he's saying.
Your job I know you're saying, but before you get there, answer that specific subject matter, right?
He gave you
we got a conflict. We got between two statements, between the word of Jesus, as he quoted,
in Matthew 15, where Jesus explicitly says, I'm not sent to you, Gentiles. And he actually pushes her away, initially. So that's proof.
Because of the sake of brevity, I'm trying to look at the whole context of the Bible and trying to paraphrase. So when you guys zoom in to just one part and hold me to that and say...
No, do you know why? Because Jesus' word carries more than anybody else in the Bible. So if you're going to gravitate, you should gravitate to Jesus' word.
But then, this is the thing.
Do you agree or disagree?
But the Bible works as a whole.
No,
Okay,
the Bible is a complete. The Bible,
can answer.
Please,
It's inspired of God. So ultimately, everything in the Bible, whether it's spoken of Jesus or from John or from anyone, is all ultimately inspired of God. So it's not even about Jesus. We're going this is what I'm trying to say. See, going even back to the prophet situation, because like you were saying about, Prophet Muhammad and so on. Like the thing I found difficult was like so many other religions have got their prophets. Like there's the Mormons, Joseph Smith, and when I was a Hindu, there were so many different.
These are Christian sects. The Mormons is a Christian sect. They're not a different religion from yours. They're variants on the same religion.
It's so different, though.
They all believe in Jesus and die for their sins. The Mormons believe that.
Believe in Jesus as well.
No, we don't believe he died for our sins. It's not a Christian sect. Islam is not a Christian sect. It confirms what Jesus originally taught.
But do you know what? There's so many things we can talk about, but I think one thing we all would love is to get as close as we agree. This is one thing that bonds us, that we want to be close to our God as possible. And you know why I brought my...
Take the word out of my mouth.
Do that?
I know you said sorry.
How you get
But this is why I wanted to bring something personal in. I know you guys didn't. Like I thought we all humans, and I feel I call you brothers. That's why I wanted to mention when my own father died, and I know you didn't want me to bring anything.
Well, no, because it was a different subject. I wanted to focus on what it meant, what Jesus was.
Explain why.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I think it's sincere, so just be genuine.
No, but to me, what Jesus meant is because, Jesus taught me that God Himself becomes my daddy, like a father, and that's so endearing to me. And I lost something, and then I can hold His hand and be close. And I found all other religions, even like when I'll be honest, I have tried to look into Muslims and my own Hinduism, and I find that it takes me further away.
Can I answer that?
Well,
that's all I want.
Just to say that if you read the Quran, and I invite you to read it. Actually, there's some good English translations. You can get them just over there in that with Ali Dawa's stall over there. The Quran often speaks of the closeness of God to the Muslim, that he's closer to us than our jugular vein, in fact. And there are many hadiths, these are sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, authentic ones, which speak about the closeness of God's mercy towards the believer. So God is very close to the believer, but he's also, there is more of an emphasis, I agree, on the transcendence of God in Islam. And I think one of the problems in Christianity is that God, for Christians, becomes, as you put it, their daddy. He becomes like our
I didn't mean that in a rude way.
No. Let me just explain. God becomes our...
I said that in a respectful... Sorry.
No, that God becomes...
Father is more endearing. Sorry, I didn't...
But I've noticed in Christianity generally, God becomes like a grandfather figure who just gives sweets out, and or God becomes so loving that he's like our best mate, and is God Almighty rather than God Almighty. And when I was a Christian, Muslims don't agree with that. I noticed when I was a Christian, there was a great sense, the emphasis on God is my mate, God Almighty. For Muslim ears, this sounds blasphemous. Because God is a God of majesty, glory. He's nothing like a. But he's also immanent and very, very close to us as well. So there is a closeness to the human being in Allah, in Islam. This is true, but the emphasis is very much on His glory and His majesty. But it's also His mercy and His compassion and His love. So it's both actually in Islam. In Christianity, I fear that there's such an overemphasis on God's nearness and His lovingness that we have a problem when a child is dying of cancer, or when there's a tsunami, or there's evil in the world. But God is just so, God is love, God is love, God. So how can a God be a God of love when all this happens? It's nothing to do with organised religion, by the way. I'm talking about Christians here.
You get to think for yourself.
No, I'm talking about what Christians think as people. I'm not talking about institutions here.
I'm a Christian to his own experience.
Sorry?
Let me tell you something I've seen from looking at Christianity and Judaism.
I used to think like that when I was part of organised, but now I don't.
Say God is our daddy. It's like it's almost like an inappropriate intimacy with God. Oh, it's just like my daddy. No. God is your creator and your Lord before He's your daddy. This is.
I think you made a good point, because I've noticed the same thing when I look at Christians, right? Even from what you're saying so far. In Christianity, there seems to be this emphasis on God's love. Which is
only His love, and only His love.
And you see people nowadays where they don't follow none of what's in the Bible, they don't follow none of the laws. And when you speak to them, I got a lot of friends who are Christian. I ask them all the time, I really like guys, and they go to the church when it's time to go. One second. When it's time to go to the wedding or New Year's, but I don't really take religion that serious. When I ask them, let's say it's all fine because God's all love, all love. Then I'm speaking to my Jewish
that's
friends.
why I'm condemning all
then
that.
Then I speak to my Jewish friends, and my Jewish friends, they're too much just law, practicality.
Exactly.
That's why I've got my Jewish friends. They're very much like,
Islam is the middle way between the two extremes.
That's what I've noticed.
It's the middle way.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, but I think that this is where I found the middle way is easy to say, but I find what happens a lot of times is we worship God out of fear then and not out of love, and that's
But fear is good. The Quran says, the Bible says the beginning of wisdom is the fear of the Lord. This is God speaking according to you. So when you say this is not right, you're actually condemning your own scriptures.
And there's a fear which is not healthy, which I find a lot of people, they're kind of like doing things where their heart's removed. See, God wants a full heart.
Can I show you again?
Please.
You know, Islam, from my reading of Islam, God's two biggest attributes are His mercy, which you could say love, all these things there, and His justice, which you could say His wrath, and so on and so forth, right?
Yeah.
I like the idea of a just God.
Me
I
too,
like the idea of someone like Adolf Hitler or someone horrendous who did terrible things, who didn't pay the consequences of life, might have a great life, but God pays attention. But for God to do that, He has to be just.
Yeah.
Just can sometimes not be nice.
Sure.
And that's the thing about Islam as well, like Islam. I feel like Islam is very transparent. We don't hide nothing.
No.
You want something, you
Very
get
clear.
it. Very clear. At the front door,
I
you step in.
agree.
You know what you're getting. In Christianity, I feel like there's a lot of like turned down the
Ambiguous,
tree
yeah.
and this and for example, like in this idea of priests not having no sex and being celibate, right? And then we see all these. I don't want to go into the detail. Whereas in Islam, they don't need hypocrisy in the first place. God knows human people have biological needs, so on and so forth. The point I'm making, Islam, we're very honest. And I think sometimes you prefer
But
a
these
cushion
problems
version.
are happening in all religions.
you're not
to say that
Orthodox
it's not
Christian.
happening. Sorry?
You're not an Orthodox Christian. You've come to your own realization.
After stepping away,
So yours is more subjective.
yeah, there were so many more things I wanted to say. Sorry?
It's
not subjective.
No, sorry.
I think it's good to feel closer to the truth.
Sorry?
No, what he's
It's
done
not
is
subjective.
he's stepped away because you're relying on your own personal interpretation.
And this for me is a problem because there is a path that's been given to us by the prophets of God. We've been invited to walk on. The Sharia is a.
accusations.
No, I'm just clarifying with his brother here. With this guy.
Okay,
The-
sorry
the-
about that.
There's so many other things I forgot. Like,
All right, go on.
No, I think it's important that if we're so individualist and we're just doing things of our own intelligence, our own understanding, that there is actually a path that God has given us to follow, the path of the Sunnah of the prophets, which is a God-given path. And if we just do our own thing, which I know in our age is...